list. My name is Lori Feldman. I am known as the Database Diva, and I am joined by Todd Vio, our VP of Technology. Todd, say hi.
Hello.
And a lot of people don't realize how many things their Swiftpage subscription for their regular fee that they're already paying, how many things that you can do with that subscription. And one of the things that you can do is replace your web forms with Swiftpage forms to make your life a whole lot easier. So Todd, show us the next page. And here's our agenda for what we're going to cover. Getting more leads is top of mind for everyone, so we've got a couple of ways to use Swiftpage survey forms to do that. And then also the next problem is once you get all your contacts, how do you keep them updated and correct, accurate, complete? How do you fill in missing information? And the best way to do that is to have your contacts do it for you. And there's a way that you can do that with Swiftpage forms, so we're going to show you how to do that. You can also avoid double entry when you use Swiftpage forms as opposed to a third-party program or using your default web forms that come with your website. And there's a few things that Swiftpage has built into it automatically. When someone fills out a form, there's kind of a chain of events of things that will happen. So besides showing you how to do some list building, some list updating, Todd's going to give you a demo on how to actually set this up in your account. We're going to show you how to track your responses and download them back into ACT. And then we've got a special offer for everybody. So Todd, next slide. And let's start with how Swiftpage can help you grow your list of new contacts. Because if you get more leads, you're going to grow your list. You're going to have more opportunities to sell your stuff. And that's really the name of the game, because all of us, especially if we're doing email marketing, you're at risk for people opting out, addresses that bounce, and you can't email to them anymore. So your list is deteriorating rapidly, and if you don't have fresh names to put in, then your list size is going to go down. So we don't want it to go down. We don't want it to stay the same. We want to actually increase it. And if you've got a website and you've got web forms on it, that's a perfect opportunity to continue to build and add more contacts to your database. So I want you to think about, at this point in time, would you say that your list is big enough to support you in the style to which you would like to grow custom? Does your website generate enough leads? Do you feel like you're in control over how much your website traffic is sticking when it comes? And do you feel like you're getting enough website traffic? And once you get that traffic, do you feel like you're converting enough web visitors into leads? And then are those leads turning into customers for you? So however many leads your website generates right now, having more web forms on your website is like having an unpaid salesperson who works 24/7 for free with no benefits and no time off. So I want to take a poll at the beginning of our training right now and see where everyone stands. So we're actually going to do this poll online really simply. Todd, get us started. Just take your mouse and click on the answer to the question, how many web forms are on your website right now? And if you're not sure, just take a guess and select one of the answers. So actually that should probably be 0 to 2, because we know some people don't even have any. But 3 to 4, 5 or more, and give you a second to do that. Todd, let me know when everyone's voted. And then we'll show the results of our poll. Okay, go ahead. Let's see the answers. Nope, we lost our screen. There we go. Okay, this is an easy one. So everyone on the call today has 1 to 2, maybe there's a 0 in there, 1 to 2 forms. And that's typically what we expect. Occasionally we get someone who's at the higher end of that, the 5+, but for the most part, everyone has kind of not yet connected the dots, as I hope that we're going to be able to do today, to the importance of having a lot of web forms on your site and the number of new leads you can bring into your database. So good, very good. Thank you for voting. And I want to show you, Todd, next slide, what I think are the top 5 web forms that you should have on your site. Because 5 and more is really the optimal number. Like there's no upper limit on that. But 5 is kind of the bare minimum. So Todd, flip to the next page. So here on the left side are what we feel are the top 5 forms that you should have. Almost everybody has a Contact Us page. Almost everybody has a newsletter sign-up page. Those are kind of default sign-up forms, both of which you can do through Swiftpage, set that up through Swiftpage. But other common ones are free white papers or reports, free quote. I'm always constantly amazed at how many people don't have a free quote request as a form on their site when giving out quotes is a part of their daily business. And here's an easy way to get more leads coming in for people who are at that point, who are at that stage of their buying process. And, of course, free education in the form of maybe an email tutorial or video or something like that. So on the right-hand side are more ideas for web forms that you could put up to get your number of forms over the 5 mark. And you don't have to write those down. We're recording this training, and tomorrow you will get a copy of the recording plus the slides plus any resources that we mentioned, and you'll have a copy of the slide to print off if you want it. So just trying to stimulate the creative juices that you may want to think about ideas for once we're off this call, off this training. You can go and make this happen and start seeing the magic that happens once you do that. Okay, Todd. Why do we want to add web forms to our website? Yes, I get if we can get more traffic, we can get people to fill out the form. That form will go into ACT, we'll have more contacts, but why is that so important? And so I want to just spend a little bit of time, Todd, next slide, on what I call the buyer-seller disconnect. And this is probably the best example I've seen. I actually stole this from a Sandler person, I think. And but I thought it was great because it shows what the differences are between what the buyer, the visitor to your website, thinks and the way that most people are presenting their web presentation, their website. So, Todd. Wait, I think we skipped one. No. I'll go back. Sorry. All right. So, yep, thank you. On the left-hand side, what prospects want to know. On the right-hand side, what we want to know. So the number one question, of course, from a buyer is how much does it cost? Before they even know what they're getting, that's what they want to know. That's how we all are when we shop, right? So, but what we want to know as business people is, if I tell you the price, will you invest your time and money with me? So that's kind of hard to do on a website, and most people don't like putting their prices on their website because there's so many conditions involved in what does something cost. But that is still what the prospect is coming to find out. The prospect also wants to know what kind of problems can you help me solve, and do you solve those problems, and how does it work if you solve those problems? And on the right-hand side, what we want to know is, well, what do you need? We do everything. Just tell me what you need, and I'll tell you how we do it, and yes, we can solve that problem. So again, very complicated to convey that in a website where you have to have facts, features, benefits, and the customer who's not very educated has to figure it all out and decide if you're the right fit for him. So same thing, on the left-hand side, what are my goals? Here are my goals. How can you help me solve them? How long is it going to take? Do I have to do work, or are you going to do everything for me? So these are all very common kinds of questions. And what we find out is that if you only have a contact us form or a call me for more information, not even a form, but just a, if you want to know more, call me. that is the least likely action that a prospect is going to take. But if you can come up with very low risk, high information value web forms that offer something in return for that person's contact information, they're a lot more likely to take that first step, stick their toe in the water, and become a prospect for you, where just having a couple of web forms, they're going to come, search around, hit the backspace or the back button if they don't see what they want immediately, or just decide that you don't have what they need. Very short attention span, but leaving little forms with big offers is sort of like, you know, on news sites we call it link bait. So this is the link bait for your site, giving people a reason to stick around to take that first step with you without a major commitment. Okay, Todd, now I'm ready for the next one. Okay, so let's talk about how do we go about adding web forms from Swiftpage to your website. Next one, Todd. And this is a sample of one of ours off of our website. And it's kind of shrunk down. It's unimportant what it says on the left-hand side. Well, the offer is a lead generation assessment. So kind of like what we're talking about today, we actually have a web form on our site to do this, to get the conversation started, low commitment, high value. So a little bit of information about that on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, that's the form that somebody will fill out and hit the submit button at the bottom. And the form not only has contact information about them, but a couple of qualifying questions. So this is a good example of a web form that uses the Swiftpage survey form, as well as some qualifying questions, which is more like a customer survey. We just happen to be doing it with prospects in this case. But I wanted to show the combination of both requesting contact information, such as name, last name, company, phone number, email address, and also the qualifying questions. And do people fill this out? Yes. Surprisingly, you'll notice that one of those questions is a required field, the other one is not. So I would say more times than not, somebody does fill out the answer to the second question, even though they don't have to. So when this form gets filled out, several things happen. First of all, I get notified by an email alert that I have a new inquiry. Second, all that information is captured for instant download into my database. Third, the answers to those qualifying questions are added to my notes. Now, I could have created custom fields in my database to have that information go into, but I just put it into my notes. The contact is sent an automated thank you email instantly. And in the case of this form, the contact is also redirected to my online calendar so that they can schedule an appointment for me. That's not an act thing. That's an extra thing that we added that puts them to a third-party app that allows them to access my Google Calendar. And you can do that with a Swiftpage form because you do get an option for where to redirect them after they hit the submit button. So I'm just redirecting them to my calendar so that they can sign up for a time for this lead generation assessment. The name of the program that we use to do this is called Appointlet, but there's a million different ones out there. If you go look at online calendars, any of them would work. That's one that we started using. It's probably been over a year now, and I love it. It's amazing, and it has all kinds of really cool messaging that you can put into the appointment reminders and confirmations, things like that. The contact, the last thing that happens is that the contact gets put on a drip marketing campaign of 3 messages that they'll receive within the next 7 days. So this is not a super long drip marketing campaign that I put them on, because I wait until I have my meeting with them and then decide after that what drip is most appropriate for them now that I know a little bit more about them. So I don't have to have a super long drip immediately because I'm going to be talking to them and getting more information. But I just want them to feel that connection. Most of the people who fill this form out on my site are people who are coming to my website for the first time. They don't really know me. And I want them to stick. I want them to know that I'm a real person, that this is a real service that I'm offering, not just some fake thing to get their contact information. And I want them to have a connection with me, which I can't do all on one page. So I need that follow-up ability, and by capturing their contact information, I'm now having the ability to continue communicating with them until we're going to have our meeting together. So the mechanism for creating a web form like this, and even a landing page like this, is the same Swiftpage feature that creates surveys. So many of you may be familiar with SurveyMonkey, which is a standalone cloud-based survey tool, which does not integrate with ACT. So you can use your Swiftpage subscription to do virtually the same kinds of surveys, only instead of the answers being out there in the cloud and needing to be imported, and then having to worry, did somebody match up to the contact that I already have? Did they use another email address? And now I'm going to be creating 2 separate contacts for that person. The answers will write back into your ACT database, and the information that you have on them will either be updated or added. So we're going to talk about that next. So Todd, next slide. We're going to talk about sending Swiftpage surveys. Similar, not totally the same. And then after I get through this part, then Todd is going to jump into our demo of how do you actually do this in your account. All right, Todd, next. So these are some really good questions. I say really good because we've used them. We've gotten great results with them. I've had other clients use them. They get results. You wouldn't think that people would take the time to answer these kinds of questions, but if they are struggling with something, with a problem, or they really like you, they're clients, and they really like you, they will answer these questions. So these are just 4. I also have a bonus of 25 survey questions that I have on a cheat sheet, which I probably have on my website as a downloadable form, but I won't make you fill that out. If you're on the call today, I'm going to automatically send it to you. And that's one of my thank yous for you showing up today and giving us a little bit of your time. But these are 4 questions that go with 4 different ways that you can use Swiftpage surveys to get more information out of your clients, out of your prospects, out of new leads, that help you do your business better. They're not all leads. That first question is a really good question for generating leads, and that could be stuck onto the bottom of a newsletter that you were sending out. You could redirect to a Swiftpage survey that had this one question on it. You could offer them something in return. I have an example coming up that I'm going to show you where we offered something, but I've seen it work where you don't offer anything, but it's just part of your your ongoing communication with your database. To get people to self-update their own contact information, you can say, here's what we show for you in our database, mail merge, mail merge, mail merge, first name, last name, company, blah, blah, blah. And you mail merge that into your outgoing message. And then you say, if any of this information is wrong, or if we're missing any of this information, please click here and update us. And they click, they go to a survey, they fill out the survey with their updated information. That survey is actually connected to that contact in your ACT database. That's part of the Swiftpage integration and the value of using Swiftpage with ACT. So that works really well. Even if they put in a different email address, it's still going to be connected to that contact. It won't create a new contact. So everything is nice and neat, updates the way it's supposed to, and you then have a chance on the import of that information to decide how you want to handle that, and Todd will talk more about that. You can also use Swiftpage surveys for getting testimonials. A lot of times I'll ask people, do you have good testimonials? No, we don't have time to go after those. Do you have good case studies? No, we never have time, and we always want to do it, we never have time. So ask for them. Send out a survey and ask for them. You have to ask the question in the right way. But people who are happy with you love to answer those kinds of questions and tell you all about their great experience. And then that becomes information you can immediately put up on your website. You can put it in a newsletter. You can put it in a signature block, and it makes everybody in the company feel good, like we're really doing a good job for our customers, and everybody likes us, we're great, let's do more of that. And then customer survey, a good customer service question is, if you were the CEO of my company, what's the first thing you change for the better? So you're soliciting feedback. Everybody always has a different view of your company than you do when they're looking out and in. So here's a way to get that feedback and, make little corrective changes as you go. All right, so just some thoughts. You'll get more of these kinds of questions on the bonus that I'm going to send out, which you'll get tomorrow with the survey, with the recording of today's training. Okay, Todd. So here's an example of a survey that we did that I thought worked really well. We sent it out in January. February was Mardi Gras, so we offered a free Mardi Gras mask to the first 50 people that filled out the survey, and people were lining up in droves to find out if they were one of the 50. It was incredible. I had no idea that this would be such a popular thing. And I had gotten those masks from one of those promo companies. I think they were $1 a piece. So for 50 bucks, I was able to really do a good job cleaning up my survey. So the sample that you're looking at on the screen was the email that went out to everybody asking for their feedback. The purple button in the middle of the page was the link that they clicked on to go to the actual survey. And I didn't keep a copy of what questions I had on there, unfortunately. But the results were 325 new subscribers to our newsletter, and that was because we had a ton of people on our list at that time that I had no idea where they came from. I didn't know how I knew them. They were not coded. Obviously, we're big on database segmentation. We had captured no information on these people. They were just names and email addresses. So I asked them to self-identify and give me some feedback, and then from that, I said, would you like to receive our newsletter? And 325 of them checked yes. At the time, I was also doing a lot of speaking. I ended up with 3 speaking engagements. I think I had said one of my questions was, do you belong to any organizations that are looking for speakers who would be interested in marketing topics? And so 3 people wrote back and said yes. I also got 7 requests for a quote. Again, very deliberate in the way that I asked the question, but probably very similar to the one that I just showed you on the previous screen. And then, of course, the testimonials, it was great. He asked very specific questions on people's experience with our company and got lots of nice answers, which I then took. Todd, next slide. And wrote up on a page that looked like this that goes out with all of our quotes. So when someone gets a quote from us, they also get to see testimonials. It worked really well. In fact, I need to update that. Thank you for reminding me, Todd. All right, so I am now going to turn it over to Todd to show you the how-to of all of this that we've just talked about. And Todd, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay, so there's 3 ways of adding. We're going to talk about web forms first. But there's 3 ways of adding web forms to your website. So there's the easy, advanced, and then a very technical way. So we're going to mainly discuss the easy way, and I'll show you how to set it up. Set up the form. But the easy way, what that does is Swiftpage will host your form for you. So you create the form within Swiftpage. You put a button on your website. You link that to the form in Swiftpage. Swiftpage then can redirect it back to your website after they filled it back out. So a lot of times they don't even realize that they've left your website because they're just filling out this form and they're getting sent right back to the website. The advanced way is pretty much the same way. You're going to be, Swiftpage will still hosting it for you, but there is a way to format the survey so that it looks more like your website. I can kind of show you a little bit how that works in this as well. In the demo, I'll explain that a little bit. And then the technical way, that you're actually pulling the code for the form out of Swiftpage and embedding it into your website. So in our example earlier, that's actually what we had done. So the form, while it was a Swiftpage form, it was being hosted on our website. So it was in our on the web page on our site. And then when somebody filled that out, that information is then sent to Swiftpage, who then redirects it right back to our website again. So they never leave the website. They're always on it. The Swiftpage still captures everything. So that one's a little more technical. You may need a webmaster involved with that to get that set up on your site. But the easy and advanced ways are hosted by Swiftpage, and those are a lot easier to do for everybody else. Okay, so now I will show you the ACT. So this is just your ACT database. I'm just going to show you quickly. There is a Swiftpage icon. Same way if you're doing your emails, your drip marketing, whatever you're doing within Swiftpage, you access it the same way. Surveys are in here as well. So if I click on this, we'll get our tabs that are going across the top of the screen. And all right, come on. And there will be one that says surveys. So that's the one we're looking for. Come on. All right, well, it's taking a while, so I'm just going to skip that. And I'm going to go straight to my Swiftpage account. So if we click on the Surveys tab in there, we can go to our Surveys section in Swiftpage. That's what the survey looks like. The Survey section of Swiftpage looks like. So you'll notice across the top there's these buttons across. The way you set up a survey or web form, either one, you start at the top on the far left, and you just work your way across to the right. So I always start in the Survey Management tab. And again, our Swiftpage calls them surveys, but surveys and then web forms are the same thing. So you'll see here we have a free drip marketing blueprint. This is actually a form on our website. If you can go to our homepage, you can see it's on there. There's a button on there for it. This one is an advanced template. You can see because we've added a little bit of the customization to make it a little bit closer to what our website looks like. And we just kind of changed the background a little bit. But you start off in the Survey Management tab. You can either create a new survey or you can work with the current one, whichever wants to change the current, you can work with the current one. But when you do new, so I'm going to do new. It asks you to give it a name. The naming convention, I don't know if you can see this up here, but the naming convention that we use, we always start it with web form. So right here, web form, and we're just going to copy that, paste it in, and then we'll call this name. So give it a name, whatever name you want. So whatever the offer is, that's typically what we use as the name, and we put that here. Then it says copy questions from. So if you have a previous survey and you just want to copy it over, you can do that. We'll just do the same thing. We'll copy that same one over, free new customer blueprint. So we'll copy the questions over from the previous survey so we don't have to start over from scratch. And then I just submit that. No, I already have one. Two. Except for I copied it from, it changed my download or drop down list there, and I didn't notice that. So it created a new one. But that's fine. We'll just use this one. So it copies the survey over from the previous, so all the questions from the previous one. And then now that we have our form set up, now we move to our second tab up here. So this is where we actually set up and enter the questions that we want to use in this survey form. So right now we have first name, last name, email, company phone, what CRM to use, and the source. So you'll notice the source down here. I'll explain what that is in just a minute. But if we want to add a question, we can come up here and add a question to this. So, or we can edit the questions that are currently in here. We have company, yeah. So I'm just going to edit the questions that are currently in here. Here's a list of those right here. Let's say we don't want phone number. We'll just remove that. But we want to add a new one. Well, actually, we have email. Yeah, we have pretty much everything there. So I'll just add phone back. So add a new question. Type in phone. And then you have all of these different options here as what type of question is it. Is it a fill in the blank? Fill in the blank is, looks like this, where it has the big long, or big box where you can type in multiple sentences into it. Short fill in the blank is a single line. That's what most of them are, so that's what we'll leave this one as. But then you have the yes, no, true, false, check boxes, and a rating system. We don't really use, I don't think we use rating very much, but that's there if you want to. Multiple choice, that's the drop-down list. So you can either choose one multiple choice where there's only one choice that they can select, or you can choose or have one where it has multiple where they can select multiple, all that apply. That's what that one is. And then you can also have the state drop-down list or a country drop-down list if you want to add that to it as well. So we type in the question name up here at the top. If you want to have a default answer, you can. And then this is extra text if you want to have extra text there as kind of instructions. I hit phone, so I submit that, and it just blanks out the screen. It really doesn't change anything. It just blanks out the screen. So, but it added that question to my survey. So if I now go back up here to edit, now I can see I have my phone back in the list, but it's down the bottom. So I'm going to use the arrows, move it to where I want it. So I put it back, essentially back where it was. So that's how you would add a question to it. You can add drop-down list to it, or whatever you need to do with that, and then you can move them around. Now you may also want to require them. So here is required. All I got to do is click on it, and it puts a little X in there, and now all of these are required. So whichever ones you want to require. And I can preview it at any time so I can see what that looks like. There we go. It just added the asterisk. That's what it automatically adds the asterisk in there, so we don't have to do that. It's going to take care of that for us. So go back to edit. Actually, let me preview that again real quick. So you notice that everything is below. It's all in a single column. If you want to make it a little bit more concise and make it a little bit easier to read, we can go here and make it side by side as well, this one. I'm going to check all of these. Oh, not that one, though. So it puts it off to the side. I think it's a little easier to read, so you don't, it's not quite as long either. So, but now this is what our survey looks like. Now the bottom one, the source, this is what we add to each of our survey forms or web forms. This allows us to track which forms are being filled out. So if I go back in here to edit, and I edit that, what we did here is we added just a question called source, the short fill in the blank, and then we put our code in. This is the code that we're going to use to track. So this is going to be pulled down into our ACT database. We have actually a source field in our database. You can also use referred by as a field to pull that into. Just understand every time that it gets downloaded, it does overwrite the value that's in there. So it'll have the last form that they filled out. So if you're using referred by for more than just forms, you're using it for other things as well, you may not want to use referred by. You may want to create a field for that. But so that's what we did. We created a source field, and then we pull this down into that source field. So if I go back to edit, I do not want the customer to see this, though. So there's a checkbox here, and I can hide it from the customer so they don't see it any longer. I preview that now. That field's gone. So that just automatically puts that value in the source field without the customer ever having to even see that. And then the title instructions, so you can come in here and modify this. These are our title, and the instructions will appear right below it, and then the footer will appear down the bottom of that, so right above this the submit. And then the display settings, let me talk about this one first. Here is if you want to change the color. So if you don't want it to be that purplish color, you can do white. If you don't want to have a separator, that's the lines in between, which I don't particularly care for either, so I'm going to make that 0, so there's no separator. The border around it, we can make that 0 as well. Change the font size and font family if you want to. But now if we look at it, it's all put together. Something you want to add, Lori? Oh, make it bigger. So if you want to make the font size a little bigger. There you go. A little easier to read then. So that's just modifying the look of it on the website. This is only important though if you're going to allow Swiftpage to host it. If you're copying the form off and pasting it into your website, then all the changes here make absolutely no difference because you're going to use the style sheet of your website to adjust it. So, but this is if Swiftpage is going to host it, you want to modify this to make it look nice. And then, so everything I've talked about so far is the easy setup on the web form. So Swiftpage will host it. This is what it's going to look like. It's pretty plain, but pretty easy to do. And then if we go back to the survey management, right here is the path to that survey, so or that web form. So you would add a link on your website, linking them to this form. That would then this is what they would see when they clicked on it. Now, if you want to modify it, we added a little bit of background image to it so that it looks a little bit closer to our website. If we go back to survey design, that is this background page. So what this does is it allows you to create a template within Swiftpage, just a standard template like an email template. However, there is a mail merge feature here, or mail merge code that we can put inside that template. This is what it is right here. It says FPE survey here. If we put that inside that template and we name it, have the name of survey BK, so it gives you all the instructions right here of what to do. But we have survey BK as part of that name, so the name of the template has survey BK in it somewhere. Doesn't matter where, just somewhere within it. And this mail merge is inside that template wherever you want the form to appear. Then it will it'll use that template as the background of your survey. So if we do that, here's several that we have. Let's try this Diva banner and submit that. And there you go. So now we have it added the banner up at the top, and it has our footer with our contact information in it. So our template is simply the banner with this footer information, and then this survey, SPE survey here, mail merge, right here in this section. So that's what it does. It just inserts the survey into that template. So pretty simple. That's a little bit more advanced though, so you do have to set up that template. But once you have that, it'll appear on that drop-down list, assuming you use the survey BK in the name somewhere. It'll appear on the drop-down list. You select it. Now you have a little fancier template form. Okay. So that's the setup and design of it. So we've added our questions, modified it with however we want. So we've done the first 2 tabs. Now we're going to move on to tab 3. The tab 3 is what happens after the contact fills out the form. What should we do with that contact? So Lori talked about this a little bit earlier. You can have it automatically send an email back. That's this email acknowledgement. So I'm going to check. There's 4 things that it can do. So I'm going to check all the ones that I want it to do. I can have it automatically start them on a drip marketing campaign. So if you want that, you just check it. Then if this is a web form that we're adding to our site, typically these are new customers. Doesn't have to be, but they're typically new customers. So if I want them to be downloaded into the database, I'm going to tell it that in this case it's a list builder. That means most of these are new, and they're going to be added as new contacts in our database. If they are not new, Swiftpage does match up based on email address, so always make sure there's an email address in there. And if they are not new, it'll ask you if you want to merge it with the contact that's already in the database. So it will still update the records that are in ACT. But for list build or for forms, web forms, typically you're going to select list builders because most of those are going to be new contacts. And then you select the ACT database here. So if you're using ACT, you're going to select ACT here. It just fill that in for me. But then the landing page. So after they fill out the form, where are they going to be sent? So what page are they going to be sent to? This is where you would redirect them back to your website. So you'd have to have a page on your website to do that. So I just check all the ones that I want it to do, hit submit, and it's going to walk me through each one of those. So the first one is the email acknowledgement. I can, this is the email, subject line, and message of it going back. So it does not use a template for this. You actually paste in your email into this, this little window here. It is only text. So if you have, if this is a download, for instance, that you're offering a download as the offer, you have to put in the full path in here. You can't do a hyperlink, so it has to be the full path. So because it is just text, there's not any HTML. It doesn't support any of that, so it'll ignore any that you put in there, and the client will see it. So don't do that. Just put text. But you put your subject, message, and so this is the email that is immediately sent back to the recipient as soon as they fill out the form. All right, the next one is this is the drip marketing module. So here's all of our drip marketing campaigns. We would just select the drip marketing campaign that we want to connect them to, and as soon as they fill it out, they're immediately added to the drip marketing campaign. So this is a little different than if you use ACT to connect to your drip marketing campaigns, you have to sync those. This one is automatic. As soon as they fill out that form, they're immediately on that drip marketing campaign. So the next one is mapping up the fields from our survey to our ACT database. So when we download the results of this survey, so anybody that fills out the form, it needs to know which field in ACT it should be downloading that into. So if we, you can see we can do history, we can do notes, history, or not at all. We can just ignore the field altogether too. That's an option. I don't know why you do that, but it can be done. So, but here on the drop-down list, these are all the fields from our ACT database. So I'm just going to go down and I'm going to select the field that it should map to. So I'm going to map up each one of these. Last name. So it does find some of them for me, so I didn't have to do every one of them. But then this one here is what CRM do you use. We don't really have a field that we're going to collect that information in, so I'm just going to leave it in the history. It's going to put that as a history item. And then here's source, so we're going to go down and select our source field, or whatever field that it is you're going to use for that source code. So I've now mapped up all my ACT fields to the survey questions. So now Swiftpage knows which fields to import those into when you download that information. So I submit that. And then the last one, if we want, where we want to send them once they fill out this form. So Swiftpage can have something hosted for you. So you can have a page, one of your templates in your database. It can be set up as a hosting page. Or most likely what you're going to do is you're going to redirect them back to your website. So that's what this one is. You would then put in the path, make sure you do the HTTP, the entire URL, and whatever the thank you page is. So if you have one, or you send them to wherever you want to, but this way, when they fill it out, they'll be redirected back to this page. Okay, so now I've finished my survey result options tab. It takes me back to survey management, and I can see everything that I've filled in there.
Let me just add one thing real quick, Todd. On that last screenshot, that would have been a place where we put our appointment connection.
Right.
So it could be anything that they get redirected to.
Right. It'll redirect to any site that you put in there. It doesn't matter if it's actually your site or something else. So, oops, use the semicolon. So make sure you do type it in correctly. I got a typo in there, so that would not work. It'll still try to send it to this site even though there's a typo in there. So make sure that everything is correct. Okay. So, and then the last two tabs up here, this is after somebody fills out the form. This is where it stores all that information. So Swiftpage stores the information on their servers. Every time somebody fills out a form, it gets stored by Swiftpage. And then it's up to you to go into ACT and download those contacts. So let me show you really quickly where to do that. So if I flip back to ACT here. I'm going to go back into my Swiftpage window. I'm going to go to the Survey tab, and it lists all of the surveys that are in my account. I don't know that, and there's my survey that I just created. So it would show over here on the right all of the responses that have not been applied yet. So you see all the people that have filled out. Here's our free new customer blueprint. We've had 855 people submit on that. And we still have 32 that are sitting there waiting to be applied to our database, so we need to download those. So what I would do is I'd click on it, highlight it like this, and one of these two buttons here opens up. So depending on whether this is a list builder or a list updater form, one of these two buttons opens up. And so this one was a list builder, so that's why it's saying add contacts to ACT. And so I would then click it, click on this, and it would start downloading all of the results or responses into my database. So if it were, and there's a checkbox here, so this will prompt me before adding or updating contacts. Depending on how many you have, you may or may not want to check that. And in fact, most cases you would want to uncheck that first. Otherwise, every single time a new contact is added, it pops up and asks you, is this what you want it to do? So with 32, that's kind of hit or miss whether you want to do that. That's quite a few, so you may not want to. But that's what that's going to do. So yeah, if you have a lot, then you probably don't want to have that checked. But then because this is a list builder, it's going to go through and it's going to search for duplicates. If it has a duplicate, it will pop up. Even if you have that unchecked, it's still going to pop up and ask if you want to merge that contact into the database. So that's what this one does. The other one, the update contacts, kind of does it backwards. It'll go through, merge all the contacts in, and then come back and ask you if you want to add the contacts into the database. Okay. So that's how you would download the results into your database. You go into the ACT to do that. All right. And I believe that's it, Lori. So, oh, and then the surveys are essentially the exact same way. You create them the same way. You use the same survey management and same steps for creating the survey. And then you will have a redirect page on that as well. So that one you may also have to create a page in your site to redirect to. Then your emails will, inside the email template, when you're setting that up for with your survey link in your template, this is the path right here. Here's a path to the survey. So this is the path that you would use in that hyperlink to send them to. So you can also see the little test it button. You can click that and actually view what the survey looks like. So this is what the contact would see. Okay, Lori.
All right, Todd, back to our PowerPoint. So we're going to talk about tracking. Todd briefly covered it. There's a few more things that we want to point out. Next slide, Todd. So this is a sample of an email alert, and you can set this up in your Swiftpage survey preferences. If you want to get an email alert after every submission, which is the way we do it. We like to see them real time. And it's also the real time that the contact is going to be receiving a thank you if you set up an autoresponder. And as many questions as you have on your survey form or on your web form, that's what's going to come back here. So it's question 1, question 2, and then all the answers that the contact filled out, including any longhand, text-based answers. They're all going to show up, and that email typically goes to the person who's the account holder on Swiftpage. Okay, Todd, I think you're going to do the next part. Okay, all right. So kind of maybe a recap.
Okay. So the downloading results is what we talked about within ACT. We have all of our different forms. Shows us are not applied over here, the ones that are waiting to be downloaded. We click it, usually we uncheck this. We would, so this will be the form. We would click this with the ones that have not been applied, click Add Contacts to ACTA to download them into our database. So, same thing that we just did. Okay? Am I doing this one too?
Sure.
All right. So this is how we set up ACT to show us, and actually I think we can probably just demo this. It might be just easy. No, we have it here, I guess. So the in our database, we've created a group. You notice that first it has asterisks at the beginning of the group name, so that group is always added to the top of our group list, so we don't have to go digging for it. But what we do is, in that group, we click Add Remove Contacts. That pops up this little window for the Add Remove Contacts, and we set up the group criteria so that it has referred by. In our case, we'd actually use the source code, but it has all of our form names in that list. This must be pretty old. This must have been prior to us actually changing our naming convention, but for us, it would actually say source code contains web form. And then that will automatically pull all of our contacts that we've downloaded from our web forms into this group. Then on our contact list, we added create date as a column on it, and we sorted by that in descending order. So when the contact is downloaded in our database, we have the web form added to the source code field, so that's the criteria that's pulling the contacts in, and then we sort them on date, so we have all of our newest contacts at the top of our list. So these would be all the contacts that we that are just been added to our database from the forms.
So for lead generation, for us, for example, someone fills out the form, we are automatically alerted through an email, and then if we wanted to hand off that lead to a salesperson, the salesperson could come into this dynamic group, go to this group, and look to see which leads had come in most recently. And that would be updated as often as you download those leads back into ACT. So it can be a very efficient lead generation tool to have the dynamic groups. I think this is an older slide because I don't think we are doing it like this anymore. But if you start your naming convention on all of your web forms with web form as the name, then you can just pull in all the leads that start with web form regardless of which form they filled out. But because you've got the source code, and I think that the red box, Todd, is covering it up, but isn't that first column over there the source code?
Oh, correct, yes, source code. Right.
So, yeah, we can customize the view of the group members on that right-hand column there, that right-hand side there, so that not only do we see which leads came in most recently in almost real time, and also which forms did they fill out. And a lot of times, people will fill out more than one form. So we always say, if you're filling out lots of forms on our site, you're probably a hot prospect. So you can kind of tell that by the way that the leads are sorted in that group.
Okay.
Okay, so we have got a special offer for everyone on the phone. We know that it can be complicated the first time that you go through this process, but it's so valuable that we think it's really important that you give it a shot. If you would like our help to set up a web form or a survey, we have a special going on through the end of the month where we will actually do the setup for you. You have to come up with the questions. We'll help you with that a little bit. You have to come up with the questions and the offer that you want, but we'll technically help you set it up in your Swiftpage account. So you give us the questions you want to ask. We'll give you some feedback on whether we think those are the right questions or not. We'll create the survey form in your Swiftpage account. We'll add it to a landing page, a Swiftpage landing page, or provide you with the HTML code that you can give your webmaster to have it hosted on your own website. And we'll do that for $195 less the credit that you paid for class today. And so if you take $35 off of that special offer, it's only $160, and typically we charge $500 for it, but we want to give everybody on the call a jump start to getting their first several forms set up. And once you see how we do it on one, it'll be really easy for you to copy and rename and modify the next one, the next one, the next one. So it's a really good offer. Everyone that we've done this for has immediately seen more leads coming into their companies because this is what people want when they come to visit your site. And through the end of the month when is the end of the month? That's like in a couple of days, right? Yeah. So hurry up if you want to do it. We'll get you started. We can turn it around pretty quickly. And Todd, let's take some questions.
Okay. Here asks, is there a limit to the number of questions one can ask on a survey? And if not, what would be a reasonable number of questions not to overtake questions?
No, there's no limit that I'm aware of. I mean, I think the one that we've done the most with has been maybe like 20 questions. So, but I don't, what, you think no, Todd?
I don't think there's a limit, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. But is that, should you like, you know, do the Great Inquisition, or should you be a little bit more strategic? I would say you probably need to be a little bit more strategic depending on where they are in the process with you. So if they're a hot lead, you need hardly any questions, like probably no questions other than first name, last name, email, because you don't want to scare them off. If it's a customer survey that you're doing a follow-up with a customer who is open to you asking questions, you have a little bit more chance that they'll take the time to give you the feedback. And even on that, we don't really typically ask more than, I would say 10 at the most. That would still be a lot. But now we have one thing that we didn't mention. I meant to put a slide in about this because we've been doing this a lot lately too. We have worked with a lot of telemarketing companies and also a lot of companies that are doing telemarketing for lead generation and working with somebody who doesn't necessarily have an ACT user login or a Swiftpage account. And so we've been creating survey forms that has the telemarketing script with the answers that the telemarketer is trying to get from the contact. And then they're given a list, but the answers are filled out on a Swiftpage survey by the telemarketer, not by the customer. And those answers are then automatically funneled back into Swiftpage and then into ACT. And then if you do a dynamic group, into a dynamic group that can be easily accessed in real time by a salesperson. So that's been very effective, and you would just give your telemarketer a link to the online survey, and they just keep refreshing, and every time they hit submit, the form comes back up and they're on to the next call. So that's another way of using the survey tool that has nothing to do with customers, but can still give you updated information. So, for example, if you wanted to give a telemarketer all the bounced emails in your database and have them call and get updated information, you could let them fill that out on a Swiftpage form, and it would update the contact information for you. What was the other part of that question, Todd?
well, how many was reasonable. So, but he's got a second question. Is there a limit to the number of answers one can purpose per multiple question? So is there a number of answer limits on the multiple question? And that is yes. You have a maximum of 10. So on the drop-down list or the all that apply, the maximum number of answers you can have on there is 10. And then the third question he had was, can one verify the validity of the surveyed data before importing it back into ACT? And that was here, I'll pull that back up. That was the survey responses. So you can view the survey responses here prior to pulling those into ACT. You can even edit those if you want to edit them before pulling them into ACT. So there will be an edit and delete if there were anything listed here. Edit and delete, and you can edit them prior to importing them into ACT.
And that's a really good point about this. I do use this edit feature quite a bit because a lot of times I'll preview the data before I import it. If somebody forgets, it's .com and they put .co and they forget to put the M, that's just a typo. You don't want to be importing bad data back into your database. And a lot of times people are typing on their cell phones or whatever. So you want to kind of review it if you can catch typos.
Or dummy submissions.
Yeah, dummy submission, that's a good one. You don't want to be bringing that stuff in. But that would probably be the only verification. It's not going to go out and ping a separate database or anything to find out if what they're typing is correct. You just have to kind of use your own eyeballs for that.
All right, that's it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Our next one is, I think, in 2 weeks, and you'll be receiving information about that one as well. Give us a call if we can help you with your setup on your forms. And tomorrow, watch your email for the recording, the PowerPoint presentation, and the resources that we've mentioned on today's call. All right. Happy emailing.